Welcome back. Well, as I said, last week were all the budget meetings, and Third had theirs on Friday. And then tomorrow, on Tuesday, they will have their regular monthly board meeting. So there's a lot to talk about. With me today is Board President Rosemary DiLorenzo-Dickens. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
And coming up, believe it or not, elections not too far away, right?
Yep, actually on Wednesday, this Wednesday is the day for the closing of people filling in applications. And it's interesting, we have 4 positions open and we don't have 4 applications in yet.
Wow.
I'm sure we will. And I was talking to Brad and I said, well, what happens if we only get 4? Which is,
Yeah.
And he said, well, basically, according to our bylaws and according to Davis Sterling, if we only have 4, then we don't have an election. Then they basically fill in the positions, which would change a lot of the things that we're doing.
Right.
But meanwhile, we hear a lot of misinformation. I know last year some people were giving people heat because they ran as a slate, and some people are saying, well, you shouldn't, they shouldn't advertise, and basically, so in order to be fair, I went through our bylaws and I went through Davis Sterling, and in technicality, as long as a person is running for office, and it's called electioneering,
right.
They can do just about anything that they want. They could run newspaper ads, they could go from door to door, they could run as a slate, they could run individually. The only things that can't be done is the board can't pay for any of it because we have to keep our funds separate, which is okay because we don't intend to. And the other thing is they're not supposed to electioneer at the polling site. Well, we don't have that because it isn't like we're voting for the president and they go into the booths because they vote at home.
Yeah.
So that doesn't pertain. So we double checked it all. We went through legal. We went through again our bylaws, Davis Sterling. So if you hear anything about they shouldn't be doing that and they shouldn't be doing this, it's all okay, unless and we don't want them to do anything out of the ordinary, like say bad things about one another. There are different ways that they're going to meet the candidates.
Right.
So let's think that we're going to have at least 5 people apply. So it'll be like normal. So we have meet the candidates on Tuesday morning, I believe, at 10 o'clock. Yes, the 21st.
Oh, the 21st. I was thinking
not tomorrow.
Yes,
we were already busy tomorrow. And then various organizations are having meet the candidates also.
Are, yeah.
So and I don't really go into their calendar. I believe ACC is having it, and the Gardenville Association is having it, and I believe Friends of the Village are having it. Those are the ones that we know of. So they get our candidates, as long as Candidates for United get a chance to present themselves to the people who are interested to go. So we're looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to having. Well, we have a really good board now, and the 4 people who are going off are running again.
Oh, okay.
So, well, maybe they'll get elected again.
All right.
But we have a really good board.
So at this point, where you're saying there is no new person, at least with their slip in within
and
their
they see Catherine in the executive office, and I believe it's until 5 o'clock on Wednesday.
Okay.
So whatever I'm sure I'll be there asking her.
All right.
And we'll let everybody know. Yeah, a couple more days.
Very good. Now, as I mentioned, Friday was your budget session, and as you folks say in the meeting, and so did so did United and GRF. It's presented, and then it's voted upon at the next meeting, correct?
I don't believe it's at our board meeting tomorrow. I believe it's at our next board meeting.
The September one,
yeah,
right?
Right,
okay.
Right.
All right.
But it was really interesting this year. We really, if anybody watched our board meeting, our meeting on Friday, it was very short. And it certainly isn't because the board members don't have anything to say, because that isn't the case. But we had a lot of meetings before.
Yes, you did, yeah.
We really met before. We went over each area. We met with Ernesto from M&C. We met with Brad. We met, so we wanted to meet before to try to get things, ask the questions, say what could we focus on, how could we change any of our direction, what are the things that are really needed. So we added some things this year. We added earthquake insurance because we were able to get a good price, and that we thought was very important. And that was really worked on really hard by our board, as well as people from the disaster preparedness team. So there were some things we added. We added a component to repair the streets, not the streets, the sidewalks.
Right.
I always get that mixed up because it's amazing. That has been done. There's no budget for it, so they go a little piecemeal it. So we actually talked to Brad, and it was like, well, why are we out there always putting that slurry seal on? Maybe we're doing that a little bit too often, because there used to be, and I'm not saying it's that way now. We've always done it that way, and everything is really changing. So they're looking at that and saying, well, maybe we don't have to do that as often, though it is very important. So then we have some more money for pavement. Though we did add a pavement component this year.
Okay.
So it's, I believe it's a good budget, and the increase is very, very slight. I think it's 1.4% overall, with our increase, Third's increase, being less than 1%, 0.8%. So
yeah, very good.
So we're excited.
Now, M&C, and lot of stuff in M&C, let's face it.
It's interesting for M&C.
And it always gets added, more gets added all the time.
And because of staff, they actually brought in an energy consultant, and he met with us because there's so much in here. Like some of the board members, and remember we have very strong personalities, are really concerned about making sure we have electricity, ways for people to charge their electric cars. Some of the other board members say, well, we only have 50, 60 electric cars. Why are we worrying about it now? Then some of them say, well, we have to prepare for the future. Well, then you go back to the basics. The basics are some of the parking spots, these are the assigned parking spots, don't even have the electricity to charge their golf carts, because they didn't build it that way. So here we are saying, oh, well, you're not supposed to have your plugs all over. So the thing is so it's like, oh my goodness. So you're trying to look at one thing, and then you see all of these little basic things missing. So we had an energy consultant in, and then we said, well, we think it's great for us to have should be our path, but perhaps we should have all of the boards meet with him. So the village has a path, which of course to Brad was a great idea. So we're going to have everybody meeting together. But then for us, for our own board, we also are going to do a strategic planning meeting to go into the year. We're going to meet with the consultant, but we're also going to have, because we have to, again, some people really want to focus on this, some have to focus on that. We really have to take the interest of the community first, and we're going to get together and say this is our plan, and then work with staff and try to achieve it and get there.
I think that's great because, as we know, more and more people are getting electric vehicles. They're coming down in price. There's great incentives, and for a lot of folks living in a community such as this, they're no longer commuting 30, 40 miles somewhere for a job each day. So to have an electric car to get around fairly short distance, of course now some of them can go much further, they can go a couple hundred miles, is just makes sense.
Yeah, and we're just not equipped for it. And I remember one time a former board member said, well, if you have an electric car, you just shouldn't live here, some nonsensical statement. And half of the people who have electric cars have their own homes, and they have their garage, or they have a place with a garage. So that's easy. It's the ones who don't. And so the question is well, how do we get the right current? Because you just can't plug it in everywhere. So we have to work on that. So we try to really push Ernesto hard.
Well, I think in the long run, it's a good solution for everyone to come together and have almost the same solution.
Yes, and that's it. But the thing is that I thought that the biggest challenge was, and it still is parking spaces. Well, it's not only parking spaces, it's parking spaces where people could potentially charge their vehicles.
You're right, because you've added Third, or in the process of adding a lot of parking spaces.
Yes, we have. We're adding,
red curb.
We're adding hundreds. It's unfortunate the person who we hired to blast off the red curb came and worked on it and thought that the job was too hard, or he didn't bid it correctly, so we are getting another company to do it. I mean, I think Brad is at his last resort here, because we really didn't want to paint over them, but you know, we have to see where
Okay.
we are. But
Yeah.
and after that we'll have more. So now we have to have more, but we have to have more. We have to make sure we take care of the parking. So it's just an endless
It is
array
endless
of things.
with everything,
endless.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, I know the budget was also touched about the long work that's been done on just in dry rot and
Absolutely. We actually are continuing our dry rot work on the LH21s, we call them. The 3-story buildings that aren't the Garden Villa ones. I live in one actually, and there was a lot of dry rot work in the stairs. But so those contracts, they bid them real out, and they're starting the work again. But then they're also doing beam replacement. But we also we're working with somebody else on dry rot because it's in so many places. In some of the buildings where we have the railings, and the railings were put in that are wood, they have to be replaced.
Yeah.
And we had one building, it was a 3-story building, so you figure there's a lot of railing. And it was over $80,000.
Wow.
To replace the wood, and you basically had to, because every year, or not every year, but every few years, they would have to go and repair it and sand it and paint it, and it just wasn't holding up. So, good thing we're not doing any of those buildings next year.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's a lot of work and a lot of money. So it's not part of our paint cycle. That we don't have any buildings that have railings up for painting next year. But
Yeah,
it'll
that's
be
good,
coming
but-
up again. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's just a project that's going to keep going for a while, and
Every
that
place
has
you
to be
look
done.
is identified. So if there are buildings where there's like some wood trim that was either causing a leak because of how it was and water stored in it, if it can be removed, it's being removed so that we don't just continue how
Right.
we were. So that's why we're working with people. They actually made a change in the stairwells of the LH21s where they removed something that was causing the water to build up as it went down the stairs. And they have all of these terms, king studs and this and decay. So they changed it. So they are replacing some areas without wood. They're replacing it with metal, but it still will look the same.
Right.
You know, we're not changing it. It'll look the same, but it's using better materials. And unfortunately, this is a lot of stuff that we should have been doing all along.
Yeah, and because it doesn't get any better if you
No,
don't
it
do
isn't
anything
like
with
it goes away. But
No.
this board was very committed to saying, you know, we can't not do it because it grows. It's a spore. I didn't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
anything. You know, dry rot wasn't my forte in my former life.
Yeah. Another issue, and we had on board member Susan Kane last week, the ongoing landscape, the slopes, and working with Orange County Fire Authority. It's not only changing parts of the landscape for better use of water, but there's also issues with fire dangers
Right,
and things.
right.
So a
And-
lot of times,
Yeah,
that's what you got to deal with that.
We actually, again, it's always a learning experience. I thought that some of it had to do with, we were cleaning a lot of it out because of coyotes. And, so then you clean it out. But when you clean it out, you have to be really careful because if there's rain, it could all
Right.
go floating,
Yeah.
down. So it's sort of holding it up. But it's also the fire authority. So it was the fire authority, the coyotes, the way it looks. They're doing it. We're not doing what we did many years ago. They would have a slope beautification thing, and they would do endless amounts of planting. And then with the drought, we have to be much more careful. So they stopped this planting for a few years. But the thing is that doesn't mean that we could just let it
Right.
get
Right.
uglier every
Yeah.
day. So we're really working on it. That is probably one of the areas where we constantly have to work really hard, and I am constantly contacting Brad's office, and also James Tung is our chair of landscape, and Susie's on the committee too, where residents still have a lot of issues. I play
Yeah.
bridge once a week on Saturday, and you would forget that I was there to play bridge. People think I'm having
Yeah.
the complaint department is
So you hear a
open.
lot about the
And I
landscape.
had two people, so I'm constantly sitting there. What unit are you in? Okay, and then so I have two people who have complaints about landscape. So when this is over, I'm going to go home and type an email to Brad. And,
All right.
and then the one great thing is now, if we get a complaint, they immediately send somebody over. So if somebody has something that needs work, they should let us know.
Yeah, very good. And it was interesting how she pointed out, I think Brad pointed this out at the meetings as well, because of all the humidity we had, a lot of these plants that you normally would be dormant, all of a sudden you could see the new growth.
Right.
You see the lighter leaves coming up. And with everything else going on,
It looks like, it looks like we're not trimming, because I constantly get comments. Are you not? Have you stopped trimming the hedges? And it was like, I wish though that we didn't have so much of that hedge look. It seems like that was a different kind of look. Remember there used to be all the hedges,
right?
Because I like things that are more free form.
Right.
I know that we're not going out and planting new ones because you have to really keep them up.
You do.
And we're constantly going back and forth with how many days should it be between mowing. How many days? Because let's not mow as often. Let's get out and trim the place. So it's a constant balance.
Yeah, it is.
It constantly is. Because if you don't mow as often, then you say the grass is getting too high. And then and the basic thing is we would like to do it all, but we also have. We can't say that we don't have the budget to do it all, but we really want to make sure that we are reasonable in what we spend.
Yeah.
So we're constantly going back and forth. I know that James' big thing now is, because our water bill was up last month, so I know he's going to meet with Kirk. and every time you hear the sprinklers go on, but that's an important thing. If anybody notices that there's watering and the water is really wetting all of the sidewalk or the area around, or if there's something wrong with the sprinkler, please let us know, because that's a real waste of water.
And they're going to notice it before probably a board member and even staff might, if they see it at night.
The residents will see it, and we will definitely send someone out there, because I believe if we were try to be on top of the areas where it's being wasted unintentionally, it would help.
Yeah, that definitely, of course, would make James very happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add for today?
No, I think that's it. Again, we have our board meeting tomorrow, and we'll just keep working.
All right, and we'll see if you get more than 4 running.
Yeah.
You have till Wednesday, so you go up to the second floor outside the general manager's office, talk to Catherine, and if she's not there, somebody else can help you, but they'll give you the packet, and then it's due in by Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
Right.
So if you want to run, I'd get up here today.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks
Good
a lot.
Thanks
to see you.
We'll be back. Yeah.